Hey y'all, we are back. It's official. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of y'all who don't know me, hey y'all, it's your girl had the Byrd here, and welcome to another episode of Byrd Talk. If y'all are joining us right now, make sure y'all are interacting within the chat. We can see you, we can hear you. We are having a conversation together as authors, but we are also including all of our community in the conversation. So make sure you hop on into the chat, introduce yourself, let us know where you're coming from, let us know if you're an author, and we welcome you to the conversation. Again, you are in another episode of Byrd Talk Live, where we are aligned with our creativity. Here is where we create, we connect, and where we build. For those of y'all who are meeting me for the first time, I am the creator of Byrd's World, along with being an award winning author and producer, author, and all of the amazing things. And along with being a creator of Byrd's World, we are here to really inspire and transform lives one story at a time. So, what we do is we help ambitious women of color who are first time nonfiction writers go from frustrated to first draft so they can establish their authority, increase their visibility, and create a massive impact. Y'all, you all are in for a treat. As you all get to know me and who I am, you will know that my grandmother is someone who I have a very strong relationship when she was here. That woman made me who I am. And so, who I'm about to bring to the table right now, I am super excited to introduce you to someone who knew what the power of storytelling could do for her own healing, for preserving the legacy of her grandmother, right? And so I want y'all to help me in welcoming Lisa Bennett to the stage, who is an entrepreneur and an author of Just Keep Living. If y'all have not already, put your hands together, put all the comments in the chat, let us know that you are here. I am excited to spend the next 30 to 45 minutes to have conversation with this beautiful individual. Lisa, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the space.
Thank you for the opportunity to be in your space. I'm
Oh,
excited about your show, and I'm so proud of you for
well,
launching Bird's World. And I've watched your growth over the years, so I'm glad to be here with you.
it is one step at a time. Like the way in which we kind of approach, at least for me, the way in which I approach like writing stories and being a poet and being an author, that if your story could at least touch one person, you've done your job. If you've made one person laugh, if you've made one person cry those happy tears, or maybe even those tears that need to be released, like what are we doing if we're not sharing our stories with the world? And you took us through one journey here, and Just Keep Living. But before we even dive into that book, I would love for you to introduce yourself to all of the hummingbirds out there, right? Tell us about yourself. And like before you even talk about what you do, because a lot of the times we answer that question of what we do, and we associate that with who we are. I want you to tell people who you are outside of what you do, right? So go ahead and let us know a little bit about that, and then we'll brag about all the things that you do.
Oh, wow, who I am outside of that? You're right, right? It's almost hard to answer that question because I identify myself as a mom, as a spouse, as
Yeah.
an aunt, but those aren't my work things. Those are some things that I'm passionate about, right? My family. And so who I am, I'm still in the process of deciding that, I think. Uh,
Mm.
I like I like being on the journey. So I like who I am becoming, if you will, because every day a little bit more of that is unfolding and I feel a little more free as I get older. And I remember some years ago, Diane Carroll did an interview with Oprah Winfrey when she turned, I can't remember how old she was, but she said the best thing about getting older was that you felt free and you do
Mm.
what you want to do and you can become who you want to become. And so I don't know if I've answered the question about who I've become. I am in the process of becoming. So thank you, Michelle Obama, for that title, by the way. But I enjoy motherhood. I'm a grandmother. That's brand new for me. It's been a couple years, and so I'm enjoying my grandchildren. The thing that that I loved the most, though, and that's kind of how the book came about, is I loved being a daughter and a granddaughter. I had such wonderful relationships with my mom and my grandparents. And so what I am excited about is at the time I was losing that, if you will, that position in life, I was gaining grandmother position in life. And so I don't know who I'm becoming yet. Uh, so I can again give you a little bit about who I enjoy being, and then in terms of the accolades, or if you will, or the career stuff. I have done a whole lot of stuff across industries. I am, I guess you would call it, formally a change manager. That's where I've spent a lot of my time in the change management space amongst the Fortune 100 companies, going in, looking at processes, improvement, staffing, strategic development, and helping make modifications. And that's what I do. Um, but that's a job, right? It's not all of who you are. Outside of that, I preach, I sing, I'm a bit of an artist when it comes to woodworking, and I've been posting some of my stuff on LinkedIn because, again, part of the journey in writing the book was that I needed to find mental health, healthy spaces for me to dwell. So, who am I? A little bit of everything. I'm like a tapestry or quilt. Pieces go
Let's
together. There
go.
you go.
And really, it's the I love that the way you're thinking about that in terms of being like a tapestry, being a quilt. Like we literally take all of our experiences from various places to make who we are. And so there are bits and pieces that you can take from your childhood, there are bits and pieces that you can take from your 20s, there are bits and pieces that you can take from even people who we haven't encountered that are family members, right? But like their stories live on through our parents that then seep through us. So and this, just a prime example of how you are who you are, because we've had a chance to be in person pre-pandemic, right? And interact.
Right, right.
And I can just, after reading the book, see how your grandmother just influenced your own personality, right? There's no way for us to escape our own upbringing and who we're around. It's a part of who we become. So it's really beautiful.
And I've been proud, again, feeling more free and proud of that, and don't want to escape it. I know that a lot of times in our lives we get to a point where, like, you wish it wasn't this way, wish it wasn't that way. I'm embracing the whole journey,
Mm,
and so every day I'm looking forward to what's going to be new for me today.
yes.
I was talking to my wife earlier, and I said the path of least resistance to whatever it is I'm seeking. That's what I'm after, and
Mm,
that doesn't matter what area of my life that comes in. I'm asking myself the same question: how do I get to the path? How do I take the path of least resistance to whatever it is I'm seeking in
mm.
whatever component? So I'm becoming every day more and more.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes, and shout out to Michelle Obama always, because that book it's one of those books where, like, you read it, and when I got done reading it, there's a piece of me that, like, started to cry because I didn't want it to be over, and I was also longing for that leadership again. So that's a book that I'm gonna have to read through again and just, like, take me on that journey because 'cause I'll pick up something different the next time I read it, in a different part of
Right.
life.
Yeah, and so we're ever evolving, and every time we get some new piece of information downloaded, it changes our perspective. My grandmother is one of my favorite things, and this actually leads to the title of the book, Just Keep Living. When I was younger, I think I don't know, 10. My grandmother was 40 years older than I am. And she
Mhm.
said, I was asking her something. I said, why are you always doing this? And why are you always doing that? And she said, listen, I'm 50 years old, you're 10 years old. I could answer your question, but you're not going to understand. You don't have enough experience in life to consider the things that I think are important to make these
Mm.
decisions. So you just keep living, and then eventually you will have these experiences and understand what I'm referencing to make the decision I'm making.
Oof.
So I'm kind of just there.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a freedom, there's a joy in, like you said, taking the path with least resistance and just enjoying the journey and soaking up the lessons and just being.
Just being,
Just
right? No, not looking for right or wrong, just being and experiencing.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
yeah.
where I am.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah. Also, just want to shout out Roslyn. I see you on the show right now. I'm glad you were able to get a sneak peek while you were here. Let us know if you have any questions. Also, if other folks are out there, please let us know. Um, We will take questions throughout if you are presenting them. If not, we can always just have a conversation and it will be amazing. So hopping into the next question, thinking about like what are you passionate about? Like what fuels you to continue doing the work, to continue sharing um stories about your grandmother, your own stories. Like what are you passionate about?
So that's kind of two different things for me. Let me my passion. I'm passionate about my family. I mean,
Mm,
anybody who talks to me, spends any amount of time with me, knows that that's priority number one. Um, anything they, when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to get old enough, big enough, strong enough to earn enough money because my grandmother was a domestic, third
mhm,
grade education. My grandparents were, for all intents and purposes, uneducated formally. So they worked domestic kind of jobs. And I couldn't wait to get big enough and strong enough to make enough money to end that for them, right?
mm,
Because I understood. I used to tell my kids that movie, The Help, they didn't need to watch it. They just need to go in the next room and have a conversation, pick any of my grandmothers. And that was a real live conversation in real time about what was going on. And
mhm.
so I'm passionate. I've always been passionately driven to make sure I could provide for my family. Um, the other part of that question, which now I see will show my age, I forgot it, but there, no, the book. So the other part of it, sharing my story, that was never my intent. That was never my intent. Once my mother passed away, it was such a deep darkness for me. I could not find a way out. And my grandmother was, she recognized that, and so she would talk with me every day. And I mean, it was everything comical from what's happening in the news. I mean, she'd make it comical, and it not even that funny of stuff when you think about it, but the way she delivers it made you laugh. But
Mm,
anyway, long story short, my grandmother recognized that I was in deep trouble emotionally. And subsequently, once I'm gonna speed up a little bit, once she passed away, I was even in further trouble. And so at that point, I had to go to therapy and hospitalization. I mean, here's the reality: we don't deal with mental health enough,
we
but I needed
don't.
some help. I needed some real help, and that came in the form of hospitalization. It came in the form of medication. It was what it was, and therapy. And it
Mhm,
was in the therapeutic process that I started to reconnect some of the stuff that had happened between my grandmother and I, and started to laugh because I was recalling that. As I recalled it, the better I felt. And
mm,
so my therapist and my spouse and people around me encouraged me to keep recalling it. And one day I was reading some stuff on Facebook, and something came on my timeline that my grandmother said in exchange between us, and I started laughing about it. And other folks, so I reposted, and other folks was like, "Oh my God, I miss your grandmother." So some of that wisdom that she was giving to me was also other people were gleaning from it too, and I just didn't realize how big of an impact she was having on other people aside from myself.
mhm,
And so basically, after being told that and other people asking me to share more of what had already happened, it became a book. I have a younger cousin named Corey who's a writer, and my team around me, because my wife and I have a YouTube show, Lisa and Rashida, but that team, which was not really focused on the book, but were hearing the stories as I was gaining my own therapy, they put my cousin Corey, her assignment was to chase me down until I sat down long enough to write the book. So, so again, it wasn't my intention to share it. It was my intention to get better for me.
yeah,
But what I found out is that it was helping other people heal. So
yeah.
that's sort of what's happened.
Yeah, and sometimes we end up in spaces. I love the fact that you, one, are just very open about your own journey and your healing path and what that looked like for you, because we aren't transparent about our mental health and how we need different tools to help us get better. So using writing and using storytelling to recall these memories,
Yeah.
that then brought you joy. There's something beyond beautiful about how storytelling and writing can actually do that for us. And there is a preservation of their legacy, a preservation of their memory that lives on past them in these books, that is it's just it's one of those things where I haven't found the right word to sum it up because it really is a feeling, and I feel it throughout my whole body. Like there is a vibration that is there. Um, and I could just remember different stories about my own grandmother, right? I'm like, oh, right, like we had that moment, we got to share that moment. This is great. And so I thank you for putting that out there because also there no one wants to feel alone, regardless of whatever journey they're in. No one wants to feel alone, and I felt like some of these stories allowed for a community to be built to talk about the lessons and some of the conversations that we don't even have with our grandmother.
Right. And so, again, one of the most rewarding things, and when again, this is back to your question about who am and I'm becoming, because
Mm-hmm.
every day somebody gives a review and they awaken me to the fact that the book has done something for them that I never thought about. And so I was reading some reviews last week, and a young woman said in the review something like, I'm paraphrasing here because I don't remember exactly, but she said, "Thank you, your grandmother freed me."
Mm.
Her father had passed more than a year ago, and she said she just was in so much turmoil, she didn't know what to do about it. But one of the stories in the book, my grandmother talks about the fact that she talks to my mother all the time. And so the young
Mm-hmm.
lady said, when your grandmother said she talks to your mother, who was deceased before my grandmother, she talks to her, that freed me. I felt like, oh my God, here's the answer. I'm not by myself. I don't have to twirl and toil with this thing. And so again, I didn't know that somebody would read that and take away and find some freedom in it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then even yesterday, I was talking to somebody about the book, and they said, "Oh my God, what a wonderful tribute!" Because I have a 2-year-old granddaughter who will now pick up this book, possibly 50 years from now, and know her
Mm.
great great grandmother.
Yeah.
And again, I wasn't thinking about any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So in my grandmother's words, she would say, "We're here to serve. So whatever God wants to do with you, that's His business. You just follow suit. Do what you're told."
Yes. Yes, you trusted yourself, you trusted the process, and this just ended up being the end result for that. Yes, and there's this idea of like that's being a historian without even thinking about being a historian. Like it's really beautiful. And yeah. So we're in it. We're talking about Granny. We're talking about things like, right? How would you sum up Granny? Because I feel like I'm a part of the family. I've read some of the stories. How would you sum up Granny?
Is there one word? I don't
I
know.
never said it had to be one word. I said, how would you sum it up? That summary could be, a manuscript again if you wanted to, but
Speaking of which, there will be, because I couldn't tell it all. Again,
Mhm.
it wasn't my intention. So I've got plenty of things to talk about and plenty of stories to tell. I had my grandmother for 50 something years.
Mhm.
Um, all, I won't say all to myself because I have cousins and everything and siblings, but how would I sum her up? Oh my gosh. She was, Granny was, I think I started the book out saying that Granny was sort of like a Charles Dickens, Great Expectations, right? It starts off, these were the
Mhm.
worst of times and the best of times. Granny was just always solid. If there's one word, I'd say solid. Her
Mm.
faith was so solid. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, and again, it made the book, but the kind of stuff that just explains who she was. And she said to me, I was sitting on her bed, and I was having a really bad day. I was really missing my mother. And she looks over me, she says, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, I miss my mother. And she said, "Oh," like I said, nothing, right? And I'm hurting. In that, I expected her to feel my level of pain.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh," and went right back to watching TV. So it angered me a little bit because I wanted some empathy. And she says, I said, "Well, don't you ever miss her?" She said, "Sure. I talk to her all the time."
Mm.
And then she said, you know what your problem is? You could be mad, you could be sad, you can do all of this stuff, but God had made his decision. He ain't gonna change his mind. And your problem is you stressed out because you always think you're trying to do God's job. Just
Mhm.
roll with it, basically. So I'm like, what? Now I'm just mad. And so, I'm sitting there and I'm fuming now because I really want her to have some sympathy for me. And after
Mhm.
a while, she said, hey, listen here. Think about it this way. If he changed his mind and she walked in the door right now, would you stay? Because I'm not staying.
Running.
So solid, just solid. And
Yeah.
what she believed in, she believed in. And you're not going to change her mind. You're not going to move her. And her favorite verse in the Bible was, wherever you should find yourself, be content. And
Mm.
she tell me all the time, she said, your stress is because you're always trying to do God's job. If you roll with what he's unfolding before you, and again, you take the path of least resistance, she didn't say it in that words, but path of least resistance to that, you'll be okay because you have to trust him. All things work together, and you have to trust that there's no room to waver from that. And so I watched my grandmother bury her children. I watched my grandmother lose jobs. I watched my grandmother. She talked about being in the 60s and dealing with race riots and growing up in Jim Crow South. She talked about all this stuff, but her position was God gonna fix it. I remember asking her when President Obama won, did you ever think you would see this? She said, sure, I did, because I prayed for it a long time ago. Like,
Mm.
like, how stupid of you to ask me that question.
You didn't
Because
do the same
did
thing
you
for
know?
me.
Didn't you know if you asked God for something, it was going to come to pass? I mean,
Mm.
so she was just solid. If I had to sum it up,
And you thought you couldn't do it. Look at, I didn't even say one word and you had an answer for that, right? I will also say, like you said, there's so many different words to sum her up. And I want to say witty, but it's not the right word. The opening story to this book is your grandmother messing with some bill collectors. Could you just real quick just tell this,
you
because
know,
this to me summed your grandmother up perfectly, and it opened the book, and I'm like, let's go.
so obviously without reading it verbatim, basically, after someone passes away, people continue to call to locate the person, or I don't know what they think is going on, but anyway, it seemed to me that by this time I have explained enough that my mother is deceased. So I was irritated. Somebody called and said, blah, blah, blah. I said, she's not, I've told you to stop calling me. So to be honest, I don't know if it was the same person or a different person, but what happened was my grandmother answers the phone and she says, oh, okay, she's not here. Hold on for a minute. And she puts the phone down. But I'm thinking, like, what the heck is she doing? And then she picks up the phone. She says, well, the number is, and then she gives out this 7-digit number. And I go, because I'm puzzled. I'm like, who was that for? Because who's not? I'm thinking, who's not here? Who was that for? She said, oh, that was they were looking for your mother. And I said, okay. Well, what phone number did you give them? She said, oh, I gave them the number to the cemetery. Maybe they'll get the point when they come there that she's not here and stop bothering.
If that ain't ingenuity,
Now I will say that I thought about that before, but I always thought if I did something like that would hurt my grandmother even more. No, and then she did it, and I was just like, oh my God. She said, they'll get the point. I mean, stop. And again, she would say, Lisa, you're working too hard.
mhm.
Stop trying to solve people's stuff. Stop trying to do God's job. They want to talk to your mother. Give them the number where she is. See if they get an answer. That was her resolve.
And how do you even sum that up in a word? Like, how it's one of those things that you have to experience. I don't have a word for that. Like that, I read that and I was like, "Oh, this book gonna be great." Like this is the opening interaction. This is gonna be great.
Yeah, she was funny. She was in the hospital once, and a young man came in and he was mopping the floor, and she says something to him about getting her a Pepsi or Coke, and I said, he's mopping the floor. He's not. a nurse, he's not an orderly. He can't get you no Pepsi or Coke. So she kept talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to explain to her to leave him alone, let him do his job. And he didn't say anything. He left out of the room. And he came back and she said, I didn't ask you. She said, young man, what did I ask you? I didn't ask you what you did. I didn't ask him what he did. He came back and gave her a Coke. And I was like, okay, point.
I didn't ask you if this was a part of your job. I asked
right.
you.
Said, can you get me a Coke? I don't care what you do.
Can you just get me the Coke?
I mean,
Yeah, there's
just
this.
knew what she wanted.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's something that comes with age. That is just so beautiful to watch.
Clarity and freedom.
Yes, we spend so much time worrying about the wrong things. We spend so much time, and not in a bad way, because we should to a certain extent like consider other people's feelings as we're moving through the world, right? But then sometimes we spend so much time, too much time,
Right,
where
right.
we lose ourselves. And there was so much assurance in who she was through the stories that you were telling, that was just so beautiful. And I was like, that right there, that's the point of freedom that I want to get to
Right,
and
right.
experience.
And you know what? And this is a sad note, but it still speaks to who she was. My grandparents were married in 1940, 1940, but I
Okay.
think they were divorced in 45 because back then, women, particularly women of color, you didn't have a whole lot of rights. And you can't tell the men in your household what you're going to do. But my grandparents got a divorce because my grandmother was not going to be told to do. And it took them until 2009 to actually talk about that conversation and
Wow.
why they got a divorce. Because my grandmother said, she said, because you wanted to run me, and I'm not going to be run. It didn't matter that it was 1940.
I love all of this.
And so she
Yeah.
was who she was going to be. And there were people who came to her funeral. Not a whole lot left.
Hmm.
She and I used to joke all the time because I'd say, we were supposed to move to a warmer climate. She said, I don't want to move. I don't moved out of my house. I said, well, it'll be nicer. You can get outside. She said, it's always nice. And I said, how do you think it's always nice? It's Chicago, Northwest Indiana is cold. She said, it's 70 degrees every day. And I said, where? She said, in my room. I don't need to go somewhere where it's warmer. And then she says, well, I'm gonna miss my friends. And I said, you ain't got no friends. You're 90-some years old. They did.
This is where she built. This is where she wanted to be. Again, part of that freedom. Let her be.
Right. And I gave up, and we did not move, and we stayed here until she went to glory.
that yeah, yeah. Oh my word. I mean, so thinking about advice, right, for other writers who want to be able to preserve the legacy of a loved one, or even preserve their own legacy. I'm really curious about the process that you went through in order to pull some of these stories out and to recall them, and then to get them down on paper. Like, what was that process like for you? What did you do?
Again, so somebody else asked me that question recently too. There were kind of two components to it for me. One was because I'm a new writer. I had no idea what their rules, regulations, formatting, all of that kind of stuff. And I think to a large degree, that's just an excuse,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when you start writing, you really have to get naked to some degree and share a
You
lot of
do.
stuff that it may not be your intent to share. So you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable because you throw your stuff out there, your thoughts out into the world, and half the people who won't do it will be the people who criticize you for doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was that grappling with those pieces. How should it look? Should it be formatted? Should it be this? Should it be that? Once I got sort of beyond that, I think this is because maybe I'm a creative person anyway. I'm a singer. I'm a writer. Um, so and then I've been publishing a lot of my woodworking and stuff like that. So it seemed like a natural extension. Once I started writing, once Corey tracked me down, Open up and make you sit and
Right?
tell them.
Like you gonna sit down and record these.
That's pretty much what it was. She's like, you're gonna sit, you're not gonna move until you write this down. And once I started to do that, it was really easy. And I think probably for most writers, if I were guessing, that once you give up certain things, it just becomes much easier.
Right there.
Sorry about that.
You're fine. That right there. That idea of letting go of what you think it's supposed to be
And
and
just let
just again, just being
just
and
be.
just writing it. Because the we get so caught up, like you said, in the formatting, whether or not we can spell, whether or not we have the sentence structure and all that stuff. We don't even have a chance to get the story out of us so that it has a chance to live, so that it had a chance to be. So getting it down on paper first is one of the most important steps. Then you can worry about all that stuff if you want to. Or the beauty about being in the world now is that you have the opportunity to have that creative freedom and that have that creative control. When we start talking about self-publishing, you get to decide your own future, but getting out of your own way and just getting it out first is the best step, and letting go of everything else. There isn't a right way to get it out. What works for you?
Yeah, and I think again, when you're new at it, you don't know, are there rules? Are there, I don't know, rhyme, reason, prose, or whatever it is, poetry? You have some rules and should things rhyme, whatever. But as a songwriter, we get into a rhythm of things, and we have a bridge, and we have all those components. But even then, again, that even I can't even say I was thinking any of that.
Mhm.
I was just like, okay, you're gonna make me do it. Let me just write down what's in my head, and I fiddled with the format a number of times, and folks said, just leave it like you hear it in your head, leave it like you remember, like you recall it,
Mhm.
and it seemingly has worked.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and there's something very special. I mean, there are pros and cons to any sort of format, right? But what I really enjoyed about the way in which you set up the book is the ability to be like a fly on the wall as it's happening. Like the structure, you're seeing the conversation take place, and I'm witnessing the conversation in a way that I don't know if I would have been able to witness it if that was turned into a narrative. Like, yes, I'd be in it, but there's something about the separation. There's something about the line breaks and the pauses that are in there that's kind of poetic in a way, right? Like there's a little something that's there. But like you invite
maybe.
people into the space to be a part of to witness the conversation. Um and because of the stories that are being told, I don't know, for me, I was cracking up laughing. Like at one point I was reading this and my partner walks in the door and I'm cackling. And he walks by like, you okay? You all right? And I was like, I just something just opened up for me that it allowed me to be present.
I'm glad.
Yeah, yeah.
That's, I have been pleasantly surprised um, by the reviews. I think last time I checked on Amazon, in any of the book clubs, they were like 5 out of 5 and 4 out of 4. And I mean, I guess that's living in fantasy land. I feel like everybody will always feel that way. But I think the timing is kind of good. We're tired of being tired.
Yeah.
We're tired of everything you turn on being sad. And my hope once I put it out was that it will make people feel better because it made me feel better. And
Mm-hmm.
so hopefully this is some remedy or some dose of there's some good things happening in the world, and there are some happening in your world. You just need to get them down and recall those, lean on those moments so that
Absolutely.
you can get through the bad stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there a particular story that you would want to read from the book, like a little excerpt? Or I know we've shared a couple too, so you can be like, "No, you got to get the rest of the book. You got to read."
Yeah. Now you got to get the rest of the book. I mean, yes, you know, because and the thing is, I never people. I've got a book signing coming up on May
Tell
28th.
us more. You can't just be like, "I got a book signing."
May 28th at 11 to 1 in Gary, Indiana. It's going to be a place called Jay's Breakfast Club on Broadway. Unfortunately, I cannot give you the address right off the top of my head. It was approximately 36 in Broadway in Gary, Indiana.
Okay.
Again, May 28th, which is a Saturday. And that's been the question. Are you going to do a reading? Are you going to do a reading? And it seems funny for me to read it because I wrote it and it's so conversational like. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's harder for me to read because I have to do the voices. So I'll tell you this. I've been approached about doing an audio book because I can't just read it. I hear her voice in my head when I'm doing it. And
Yeah.
so I tell a story and I go, because like I'll give you this one. This was cracks me up. She used to kill me with this. Sorry about that. She'd say, she's in her room, come here, hurry up, come here, come here. And I'm thinking something's wrong. So I'm panicking. I'm running back. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Look. And I'm like, what? And she's pointing at the TV. Look at LL. I bet you Rashida don't look like that without her shirt on. And I'm like, really? That, you
Yo.
know, I'm thinking something wrong with you. I'm panicking. And you talking about look at LL Cool J without his shirt on? That's so I can't help but do the voices. And so I will give you one other one. I was with a client, Dow Chemical was a client of mine. I was in Michigan. And we have this routine because I'm gone routinely Monday through Thursday. I fly home on Thursday evenings. And so I talk to her in the morning. And then I'm in client meetings and I'll say, I'll call you at lunch or something during the day. And then we always talk before I go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So she's blowing my phone up. And I said, hey, I got to step out because my grandmother does not call me in the middle of the day. And so I leave. I said, what's wrong? She said, oh Lord, he gone. Lisa, he gone. Oh Jesus, oh Lord. And I'm like, so I'm panicking because he must be my brother or what's wrong? Who's gone? What's wrong? Oh Jesus, oh Lord. He gone. And I said, who's gone? She said, who's gone? What's wrong? She said, the purple guy. What? And I'm like, the purple guy. And so I'm like, what is she talking about? I said, what? She said, you seen the news. And I'm like, what does this have to do with an emergency that you need to call me about? I mean, it's got to be somebody in my family. No, the purple guy. And I said, purple guy, who? Barney? I mean, I don't know what the said, no, the short one that played the guitar. He's short like you. Prince? She said, yeah, Lord, he gone. And I said, that's not an emergency. It's not related to us. What are you doing? He said, but there ain't gonna be no more purple rain. And she hangs up. And I'm like, oh my God, this old woman gonna drive me crazy. But I'm in a meeting, so I'm sure that this is an emergency. We weren't related to Prince the last time I checked, so I don't know why. And I was shocked that she knew who Prince was, let alone Purple Rain or Raspberry Beret or anything else. But the short purple guy to play the guitar.
The guitar.
The guitar. So or she'll call LL Cool J and the cool white boy when she watched NCIS. I mean, so yeah,
it's things like that. It's the inflection in your like I agree, like being able to even tell the stories. Like there's just another level of comedy that is there when you actually like hear the voice and the urgency and the did you just call me for that for real? Like
real. I was just like, I'm a thrash you.
And these are so relatable. Like I remember having a conversation with one of my friends just about how our mothers call us, and sometimes they'll call us for absolutely nothing, and we're like, that was 3-4 times. Like that wasn't an emergency. He's like, your mama does that too. I'm not by myself. Like just just sharing these lets people know that they are not alone, and it's so great.
She was so funny. This is my last story, but just because now you got me on a roll and I'm thinking about it. She was in a rehabilitation center, and it was 24 hours, so we could go and visit her. And she had got. I had most of the time I stayed with her overnight, but I come home this particular night, and the nurse called me, and it was 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and she said, I can't get her to take her medicine or to do, they wanted her to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, I want you to go down there and tell her that if she doesn't cooperate, you're going to call her grandchildren. And so she doesn't know that I'm on the phone. And she's like, call them, call them. They don't run me. I raised them. So I said, okay. I get in my car, I go over there. I said, go try again. I'm standing right here. And so the nurse is like, okay. And it's so funny because they fell in love with her. They was calling her Granny too. They didn't even never call her Miss Wilson or anything. She just
Mm-hmm.
became Granny to the whole facility. And so ladies, the nurse, she said, Granny, now I really need you to take this medicine. And she said, I told you I'm not taking it. She said, well, I'm going to have to call them. Call them. I raised them. They didn't raise me. They don't tell me what to do. So I stepped my head in the door. I said, excuse me, what you said? She said, oh no, y'all tricked me. That's not fair. Just give it to me.
Oh, it's like you said, it's memories like that that keep you going, keep you laughing, you know.
Yeah.
It balances out, right? Like that. Oh,
She
you tricked me.
yeah, she just hilarious.
Oh.
You know, we had to take the phone out of her room because she called 911 because she was ready to come home and she wasn't finished with rehab yet. And she told them that she wanted to come home. And I said, you know, so the facility called, they were nervous. The 911 dispatcher called me. I go out there and she's in her room all cool as a cucumber, pleasing everybody. They're taking a report. And I said, what did you do? She said, well, isn't it their job to come and rescue people? I said, but you're not in any danger. She said, I never told them I was in danger. I told them I was being held against my will. I'm ready to go home. And so I just go, take the phone out of her room. We're not going to keep doing this. I can't keep coming out here 2 or 3
I
o'clock in
can
the morning.
relate. I can relate to that more than I want to on so many levels. Oh, yes, yes. So as we begin to wrap up, I would love for you to share with folks like what advice do you have for people who do still have their parents or their grandparents in their lives? Like what's the one question that you could ask to like open up the door to begin to build something like this?
Okay, you got to repeat that one for me because I'm going to have to use some real brain cells on this one. So,
So thinking about how you wanted to be able to like preserve the memories, right, of your grandmother. Sometimes folks don't realize the necessity to be able to do this work while people are still here because we're in the moment, right? And
right,
so
right.
thinking about this journey, like what's a question that someone can ask to begin opening up the door and recording these stories for folks to keep for their future, you know, for future generations and for families.
So I don't know if there's a question to ask so much as I will say, you know how you look at a glass and you say it's half empty or half full?
Mhm.
I'll say make the choice that when your mother is calling you, I've been there, and your grandmother, I've been there, they're nagging. You feel like they're nagging.
Yes.
Oh my God, stop calling my name. You don't want nothing. Rather than see it as being half empty, see the beauty and the blessing that there's a mother there and a grandmother there to call you.
Mhm.
Some of us came into the world not ever having a grandparent.
Mhm.
Some of us came into the world while somebody birthed us. That same person might have passed away the moment they birthed us.
Mhm.
So there is some value in just having things. We so quick to take things for granted
Mhm.
because everybody got a mother. Well, no, everybody does not.
Yeah.
Everybody you know has a mother, but I bet you if you talk to somebody who does not, or somebody who has lost their mother, they have a totally different tune. But the thing is, we don't recognize the value of that until it's not there anymore.
Exactly.
So my advice, and more than I would say is anything, is change your perspective on that glass, and understand the value in what you have, and take it and sip it slow.
Hmm.
You know,
Oh.
don't gulp it down. Sip it slow. taking piece by piece. And it's like taking that, if you had one glass of water out in the desert and you had to make it last, milk it.
Mm-hmm.
Milk what you've got, the time you've got left with your elders, with your friends and with your family. Milk it and appreciate every moment and let it unfold. And as they would say, if you're drinking a bottle of wine, take the cork off and let it breathe.
Yeah.
That would be my advice. And that wouldn't just, I wouldn't just attribute that to my elders, but to everything and everybody around me. And that's what I'm trying to do at this stage in my life.
Mm.
And appreciate what my 2-year-old granddaughter wants to do something I don't want to get up and do. I mean, you just got to milk that stuff, because the reality is it's going to come to an end. And then what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love milk it. You have that glass of water and milk it. Yes.
Milk it.
Answer the phone call. Um,
Yeah.
I'm being very intentional about like not only answering the phone call, but like every now and then I'll ask the most random questions that I've never even thought to like ask, just to get that answer. Because I could create my own version of that answer of how I think someone would answer that. But why not just ask the person? Like
I will say this, as I got, and again, you don't appreciate this stuff till you get older. This is gonna sound really corny to some people, but I dated my mother. And what I mean by that is I would go on business trips and just take my mother.
hmm
But there was business trips that I went on and I took my spouse. There was vacation where I just took my mother. There were
hmm
lunches and then movies and where I just took my mother. And there were things where I just took my grandmother. Oh my gosh. So look, this reminded me of something. And this is not in the book. So I come home, I tell my granny, I say, hey, let's go to the movies. And she said, okay. Now she doesn't do this very often. I'm gonna show you the last time my grandmother was in a movie theater. So we're sitting there, and I like uh what is it, the Transylvania, the Dracula
Hotel
movie.
transfer.
Hotel Transylvania is one of my favorite flicks. And so Hotel Transylvania is out, and I've already seen it a few times, but I take my grandmother because I want to get out and laugh.
hmm
And so we're sitting there, and the cartoon is on, and it's going, and it's going. And then she finally leans over to me, probably 30, 40 minutes after we're into it. It's almost over, really. And she says, hey, I said, what? She said, when is the movie going to start? And I go, what? So here's the thing. Here's what you got to think about. And it depends on it. Your age will dictate whether or not this makes sense to you. When I was a child and we went to the movies, they had, today we call them shorts.
hmm
But before the main feature came on, they showed cartoons as just shorts. So she thought this
Whoa.
was the short. And when was it going to be over? So
So
we
that
can
you can actually get to the movie.
That's how long it had been since she actually went to a movie.
Wow. But she got to experience that with you. Like
Yeah,
that's an
yeah,
experience that only like the two of you all shared in that moment. And you got to
yeah.
expose her to something
But I
different,
didn't,
something new.
again, it didn't occur to me how valuable that moment was until much later. I had also bought a convertible Mercedes. And she says, I just don't understand. How much money did you pay for it? So I tell her, she said, so you paid more money for a car that they already ripped the top off? That's just stupid. Like, okay, well, I guess if you think about it like
Like
that.
that, yes. And there are so many more lessons and stories and just keep living. Y'all definitely need to check out this book. If you don't already have it, here is the link that you can use to purchase a copy. Highly recommend y'all check this out. When I tell you, there are so many beautiful moments of laughter and so many beautiful moments that of lessons. Like there are lessons that your granny taught me. She a little bit of my granny now, like too. Like in the book, it's just ongoing and it's so beautiful. So make sure y'all get your copy of Just Keep Living. Before we officially close out and hop into our last segment of the rapid flight, definitely want to know, what do you have coming up for 2022? What are things that you want to let folks know about? You got the book signing coming up on May 22nd. Anything else you want to let folks know about?
Yeah, so there's a second one that's going to be in Chicago. I think it's June 4th. We will certainly be posting all of the signing dates on the website.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, like I already dropped a little bit of it, I've been talking with some folks about an audiobook version. There is a coloring book version also being discussed. So there's some things going on. In addition to that, my spouse and I are YouTubers. We are advocates and a part of the LGBTQ community, and so we are trying to still make sure we do a lot in that space to
Mm-hmm.
make sure. This is the other part of it, which is kind of off the topic, but relatable. My grandmother was okay with who I am,
Mm.
and for such an old soul, we laughed a lot because she used to say one of my wedding was one of the prettiest weddings she had ever been to, one of the nicest. She was like, "You weren't even supposed to be marrying a woman, but this is all right. I like this wedding," and just being okay with me and my life and my partner. And she loved my partner, but we have a platform in which we support the LGBTQ community, in particular the youth, because they have the highest suicide rate, the highest homeless rate. So we're very concerned that they don't see enough couples who look like us
Mm.
being successful. And we've
Mm-hmm.
been married for 21 years. So we've got some scars to talk about. We've got some real stuff to talk about. It's not the red table, but I can tell you, people want to punch Jada and Will, but here's the reality for me. What they're talking about, if you've been married for any amount of time, that issue is very real
Mm-hmm.
that you go through. But that's a whole nother story we could talk about.
Whole other story. Whole other
we try to be available for folks to have those conversations. So tune in to that. If you want to catch Lisa and Rashida at lisaandrashida.com, and that will lead you to all of the avenues and platforms that you can catch us on there as well.
Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure you'll keep us up to date too as well, not only on the website, but also on LinkedIn. And so make sure y'all follow Lisa on LinkedIn so that when this coloring book and this audio book and these book signs are coming out, we're making sure that we are supporting you on your journey as a new author. I
Appreciate it.
definitely want to congratulate you on the release of this book and all of the work that you have yet to even expose other people to, right? That is changing the world again, one story at a time.
I
So
appreciate it.
let's go ahead and hop into this rapid flight. So the way this works, I have 7 statements and or questions that I will ask you.
Oh
And
boy.
within there, just letting us know what comes, the first thing that comes to your mind. Some of it I know is already going to be beautiful Byrd seeds that are going to be out there and planted for people to pick up on and run with. Others might be a little silly. It's okay. We're gonna embrace the now, embrace just being, right? So for the first statement, what I would love for you to do is to complete this sentence. And the sentence stem is creativity is
All right. Creativity is all encompassing. I don't know.
you said all encompassing. Okay, all right. We're gonna roll with it. We're gonna roll with it. Cool. Next question. What piece of advice What's a piece of advice that stuck with you over the years?
My grandmother's just keep living. Just,
Mm,
just keep experiencing and unfolding life,
mm,
and be patient in that. Trust.
mm. All right. With that, next question. What's a lesson you've had to learn and relearn over and over and over again?
God's in control and not me.
I'd say it one more time so people can hear it in the back.
God is in control and not me.
Mm, daily reminder. Here we go.
Yes, smack you on the head or the head
Mm.
like a dog with the newspaper. Boom! I told you not to do that. I got this.
I got the wheel. All right. Finish the sentence. Next, I am building.
Community.
Mm,
I'm building community. The intent of our LGBTQ platform, the intent now, purposeful intent, that one was intentional. This one through the book is still to build a community for healing. And that's to usher in healing no matter where you are, or what juncture, or what community, or what segment of the population you belong to. So I'm trying to build
Mhm. All right. What are you deeply grateful for right now?
everything, life, breath,
Mm,
the journey, the experience, everything. Because I've gotten now to the point where it's not a good or bad thing. It's just a thing. It's an unfolding thing.
mm,
And I'm excited about what is going to be next. And it's not a good or bad thing. It's just what's going to be next.
yeah,
So I'm excited about the creativity of it all.
I love it. I love it. And then last but not least, here's one of my favorite questions of all. What are the 5 books you could not live without?
So, first and foremost, I obviously, and it was kind of cliche-ish, but it's true, and that is the Bible. Just because I use that as reference, I will read other stuff based on whether or not it aligns with my beliefs,
Mm,
my foundation in the Bible. And so that I read The Secret. I know a lot of people get hocus pocus about things like that, but if you're really paying attention in the laws of attraction and The Secret, those things are not telling you anything that the Bible doesn't say. But I love the fact that it puts it in words. I mean, God's intent, as far as I'm concerned, was for us, all of us to get the lessons. And if he wanted us all to speak the same language, then we never would have different languages, right? And
mhm,
so these 3 books, those 3 in particular, they tell the same stories but in different languages, so that folks who are at different points in their lives can understand it, but always still all get in the same lessons, right?
mhm.
So those 3, prayer of Jabez, I love.
What the what?
The prayer of Jabez,
Mm,
right? So it's enlarge my territory. It's telling God, keep your hand on me. Don't let me do harm to other people, and enlarge my territory, my responsibility to uplift and hold up mankind. So I like those. And then I mentioned Michelle Obama's becoming, because again, it's part of the process. And I think if we really look at our lives and we're being intentional, we are it's like the cocoon. We're always evolving, we're always becoming. And how you embrace that or choose not to,
mhm,
there's that resistance in you. But if you are constantly fighting yourself, resistance will cause you illness, will cause your mind to go, your body to go. You will perish. Find the path of least resistance,
mm.
take it, and keep it
Yes,
rolling.
yes, yes. And I feel like I missed one because we
I
had
think
the secret. What was
purpose of your life,
Haha, that's the one.
the secret, and then I've been thinking Go Grow Rich, which again, they're all same principles, pretty
Mhm.
much.
And just from different perspectives so that people,
Correct.
you might have missed it from one space and picked it up from another, right? So,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. Oh, well, this was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us again. For folks that are here, if you were here with us live, make sure that you check out Just Keep Living. You have the link right here at justkeeplivingthebook.com. Make sure you get a copy of that. Read it with your family, laugh out loud, be in deep thought. It is amazing. Also, make sure you check out Lisa Bennett on LinkedIn and follow her so that you can be in tune with all the amazing things that are going on in your life. If you are watching this on the replay, definitely type hashtag replay. Let us know that you were here. We will engage with you outside of this conversation because this conversation is continuing always, right? We are here. Lisa, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here again. I super appreciate you being here. Any last words for the hummingbirds?
Hey, I appreciate you all. Again, I don't take it for granted. It's a blessing, because people
Mm,
don't have to let you into their space. They certainly don't have to acknowledge anything that you're giving to them, where they don't owe you anything. And so this whole remote living world now has allowed us to get into your real personal spaces. So for folks to sit here and listen, and to want to hear what you got to say and validate anything that you say, is a blessing. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. So this is not the end. This is only a comma in the conversation. Please make sure y'all follow me on either Facebook or Instagram at Bluebird's World for future Bird Talk episodes. And if you're interested in learning more about what I do and where we are, feel free to check us out at www.birdsworld. That's bird with a y.com to follow and see what's coming up. I know that I'm super excited about launching my next cohort of my online course, Learn to Fly, How to Rise in Your Creative Badassery in 6 weeks. So if you were someone who wants to be in legal shoes, you know what I'm saying, and start writing your book, you need to build the right mindset, have the right tools, and really make sure you're getting to the finish line of writing your book. Make sure you check that out. We will be starting in mid-May. So I am super excited about being on this journey with you all. I want to let you know that I am here and I see you, that you are not alone. You're a hummingbird, and I want to encourage you to keep exploring, keep creating, and as always, keep flying, y'all. Till next time. Bye.